So welcome to hopefully what becomes a series. This is my first YouTube video ever, actually. So the plan is I'm going to build a series of go-karts, and so this is round one, and every time something works, I'll do it again. So first go-kart works, I will take it apart, make another one, and they'll hopefully get better over time. Yeah, alright, so go-kart round one is going to have a very basic feature set, and I think going from features into the plan is better than vice versa, because this feels like I have more brain cells. I don't know if I actually do, but that's what it feels like. So the features we want are actual on-off switch, so no actually connecting wires when you're turning it on. Front disc brakes, there need to be brakes, like obviously. Front wheels have to be removable, so those brake calipers have to be able to come off. Driver has a chair and a harness. The chair has to have a back, just reasonable safety things. And then the steering geometry has to make sense. It has to not. It's got to actually have caster of some kind. Boring stuff. The wheels have to actually bolt to the axle. They can't weld on because that stuff has to be removable. No welding directly to bearings. This is bad. Did this before. It was dumb. And then other stuff, but we'll get there along the way. Okay, so this is the itinerary. This is going to be like, what happens in what order, because going from those features to the go-kart would be dumb because then no one would know how that happened. So this is sort of a plan of how I'm going to get this to actually happen. So first thing first, MS Paint time, which is where we are right now. Gonna sort of get an idea of what things are going to happen. After this, then I'm going to have like a drawing of the kart in MS Paint, no numbers. Then I will get groups of parts, to see how specific systems interact with each other. Drive, steering, harness stuff, etc. Then from there, I'll figure out which parts are what parts those assemblies are comprised of. So which parts have to fit together and where things are being made relative with clearance and stuff like that. Then optional for that is going to be make stuff out of cardboard, make sure that it fits. That's optional because sometimes that's not necessary, but sometimes it is. After that, putting stuff into CAD, we'll see how that goes. After that, some parts I think I'll probably want to cut guides out of wood that then hold the metal that let me weld it like exactly square or exactly at a certain angle. We'll get there when we get there on that. After that is welding, and then assembly, and then repair for fixing anything I broke, because that's definitely going to happen. And then the arrows just indicate, when I screw up those 3 steps, which is inevitable, that's what's going to happen. I'm going to go back to that step. Okay, so here's the drawing. It's a bit primitive, but I think it'll work for now. So front to back, we've got our rear axle in green. The motor is mounted to a plate. Those 2 connections that are drawn in black, that's going to be the hubs. Those are going to be welded. We've got our motor on our motor mount plate, and that's the controller right there with the wires. Sort of, I left the wires mostly out because they're not relevant. 3 is going to be our chair, and the numbers are the assemblies. But we'll get there in a sec. So then, for that we've got 2 pans underneath, so that the driver can't just like reach down and touch the asphalt and injure themselves, because that's a bad idea. Up front, we've got our steering knuckles. The brakes aren't drawn in because that's not necessary. We'll get there later. And then we got our front steering column, and that's pretty much it. Then the batteries are going to be in this square that's blue in the front. And then so our 5 sub-assemblies are going to be, 1 is the drive in the back, which is going to be pretty straightforward. 2 is the steering knuckles and the brakes up front. 3 is the chair. And then 4 is the column, the steering column, and then other stuff around that area. And then 5 is the wiring. The wiring is mostly not drawn because no one cares about wires. And so so then from here, we can go to the individual parts of each of those, and everything that's going to be hard is in caps lock. So we've got for the rear, for the motor, we've got the mount where the motor mounts to the frame. We've got the rear axle bearings that allow the rear axle to rotate. We've got the alignment of the sprocket on the rear axle, because that has to be aligned pretty well. We've got the hubs, which I'm going to have to weld out of stock, which is going to be hard. And that's going to be also probably going to be the first thing I do in CAD. And then we've got resizing the chain with the chain tool I have. That's not going to be too bad. Then for the front, for the steering, we've got making the steering knuckles out of stock. That's going to be hard. Rotor mounts, so mounting the brake rotors on the wheels. That's going to be hard. Brake caliper mounts is mounting the brake calipers to the steering knuckles and allowing them to be removable. That's going to be really hard. The push rod connection is the connection between the actual steering knuckles themselves and that brown rod in the middle, because that whole thing has to be super smooth because that's how they get rotated. Then the stub axle fixtures are sort of like, how do we keep the wheels on the axles in the front? And then knuckle mounts with bearings is like mounting the knuckles to the frame. That's not in caps lock, but that's probably not going to be super easy. And then for the third system, that's pretty straightforward. That's just chair mount and rotation, mounting the chair to the frame and making sure it's rotated the right amount. Then the harnesses and quotes, because it's probably going to be like some strapping stuff from Harbor Freight, but they're going to have to be mount tabs, which I'm going to have to weld on to the chair, and then also the harness itself. Then for the steering column, we've got the mounting the steering wheel to the column. I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't know what kind of steering wheel we're going to have. And then we've got the steering column assembly, which has got to be adjustable, right? Because the steering geometry and stuff has to be good. And then smooth steering geometry just means no slop anywhere within there. That's going to be really hard because getting rid of slop is pretty difficult. Our last thing for the wiring is just wiring check, so plugging everything in, figuring out how to do that, making sure it all works, which is not going to be too bad. Dedicated power switch just means got to find a power switch that can withstand the amps that it's running, and connecting that. Covered connection block is like the motor has screw-on connections, and so I want to have that whole thing in like a wooden box that closes, so that nothing ever contacts that. Nothing can ever happen to our motor because I don't want to break our motor. And then our battery box just means like the batteries go in a box and they're removable and they're not in the way. And yeah. Okay, so this is me editing this video, and I'm just putting this in at the end to say, I really don't care if you subscribe. Really what I want people to do is please just comment the thing that is most annoying about this video and about the formatting and what you want me to change, because if this works out, I'm going to have a lot of these to make, and I want them to actually be watchable, I mean, if it's a little bit boring, that's fine, but just like, what would make this easier to understand and what would make this make more sense so you can just follow along with me. And yeah, thank you. I will see you in the next one.